Christine Armstrong with Exercise Ruckus. Today we're going to work on our shoulders. We're going to talk about stability, mobility, and range of motion. So a few points that I'd like to encourage you to understand are what our shoulder blade has to do with our shoulder motion and how to get the shoulder blade to move a little bit more during our activities to reduce any impingement problems that you might have either in the front, sometimes it's in the back. There are a couple different places where you can experience some discomfort through your shoulders. So I'd like to start first with just how the mechanics of the shoulders work. So when you reach out to bring your arm up over the head, the shoulder blade has to move up and wrap around the front of the rib cage. Not a lot, just a little bit. So that as that arm comes up, the shoulder blade needs to move forward and in. So today we're going to talk a lot about moving those shoulder blades and learning how to bring the bottom points together. And as you bring the bottom points together, you'll notice that that lifts the front of the chest, which opens the front of the rib cage to give those arms a little bit more space. I also want to discuss about how we tend to scrunch our shoulders more as we're doing activities, and especially computer work. And we all have heard this, where we tend to round our shoulders and hunch our neck. The upper trapezius is a very big, strong muscle, and it does like to take over. And so we want to try and learn to reduce this elevation to reduce any neck issues, but also how those neck issues can correlate with shoulder problems. So I'd like to begin with some shoulder stretching. So first, what I'd like you to do is take your arms up on a wall, having your index finger in line with your elbow, and your elbow at about 90 degrees, whatever is comfortable for you. If your shoulders are painful, you can start a little lower or you can start a little wider. But the goal is to work so that you're equal with your shoulders. Begin walking your fingers up the wall, keeping your elbows as close to the wall as possible. You can see I have a little discrepancy as my hands go inward, so I try to move my elbows in and my hands out. Go as far as you can. Hold for a moment, take a breath, and go a little bit farther. Again, you need to wait you can do this for up to a minute to help improve the range of motion of your shoulder in a pain-free range. To come down, press your hands gently into the wall and slide down. It makes lowering a little bit more comfortable if you have painful arms. The next stretch is a counter stretch. You can do this on the back of a chair. You can do this at the counter, thus the name. A wall works just as well, and for simplicity today, that's what I'm going to use. Use my fingertips on the wall, and I walk my feet away. You keep your knees soft, let your head drop between your arms, and push the wall away. So I want to move my shoulders away. Just lengthen my arms, and then I can slowly stretch my legs. This is a double stretch, so it'll also get your hamstrings on the back of the legs, as well as through the shoulder and the side. Again, you can hold that for up to 1 minute. Then I would like to do a hand on the wall. So when you do your hand on the wall, you try to rotate the fingertips. Some people that's a little difficult, but you do the best you can. And if you have wrists that don't want to participate, you can use tent fingers on the wall, or you can try and press your hand flat and open. Bend the elbows slightly. I start facing the wall slightly, and then I lower my shoulders down. So we tend to want to hike. We're going to talk about that as we go. I want to pull my shoulder blades down, away from my ears, lengthen my neck, and then I begin to turn away from the wall. The shoulder has a tendency to want to hike or lift, So we really want to keep that shoulder depressed and down and long. And as I turn my hips away from the wall, I get a nice stretch through the front of my shoulder here. It should not be painful, but somewhat uncomfortable. So I interlace my hands. I turn them inside out, really emphasizing opening the palm of the hand and how it relates to the shoulders. And then move your shoulder blades down your back. Again, as you move the shoulder blades down, that's going to lift the front ribs, press away, round out your back, and then retract your shoulder blades, pull your shoulder blades together behind you, and bring the arms overhead. And again, I loved a cue that a teacher gave me about moving my armpits backwards. That gives me the concept of really opening up my shoulders. And now I want my palm towards the ceiling. My pinkies are going directly behind me and my thumb is pointing directly forward. Again, I have stiffer shoulders, so I can't quite get beyond my ears. But if you can go a little bit farther with arms straight, that would be wonderful. Bring the arms back down, change the interlace, and this is always tricky for some people. So I take the bottom pinky and I pay attention. Now that one has to change, and now the other hand is the bottom pinky. And you'll notice that it's different on two sides. So as you push out, round out, let the chest round, drop the head, give a good stretch, opening the palm, and then again, reaching overhead, trying to get the pinky to go back behind you and the thumbs to come forward. And again, you will notice that it is different on both hands. I'd like to demonstrate a great shoulder stretch. This is a yoga pose, and this has been very beneficial for me with my shoulders over the years. It has really helped me gain range of motion and with slow and steady progress. And so I use a yoga belt, but you could use a towel or an old belt. It doesn't matter what the equipment is, just as long as you understand the concept. So I take that belt and I throw it over my shoulder so that it's behind me. And then I take my opposite arm, this is actually going to be my bad arm, and I swing back and I grab the strap. And you can see I have to kind of work my way in. I'm a little stiff yet this morning. So now I'm holding on to the belt with just a light grasp. I don't have a death grip. And then I bring the other arm up with my thumb pointing, my palm pointing towards my head, and I bend the elbow and grab the belt behind me. So you may have seen this pose once or twice, but this is a great way to improve internal and external rotation of the shoulder. Some key points on this are, don't let the elbow drift out to the side. You really want to think about pulling the elbow in towards the ear. And then the other thing that you can do to work your range of motion is pull. So I can either pull up if I want to increase the range of motion of my bottom arm, or I can pull down if I need to increase the range of motion of my top arm. I can seesaw between the two to give me more range of motion, and then maybe I can walk up the belt a little bit more. This will really help with range of motion over time. This is something you should do probably once a day or maybe every other day if you have grumpy shoulders. I would encourage, if you have bad shoulders, to go very slowly with this one. It can be a little bit painful in the beginning, but as you get more comfortable and more used to that motion, it'll get easier and easier. Now for strengthening, we begin with a band. Nice simple band. You don't really need much. You could also use a small hand towel to use for resistance, but it doesn't have to be anything fancy. So if you don't have one, just grab a towel. Turn your palms open. This is scapular pinching. I can talk today, apparently. And what you're going to do is you're going to pull your arms apart. So I want you to note that the elbows are in tight to the ribs. The elbows tend to want to drift away, and then you defeat the purpose. So we want to really tuck those elbows in tight, stand nice and tall, so you can see how I've lifted my chest, spread my shoulders wide apart from each other, and I pull the band apart. And as I pull the band apart, my shoulder blades move towards each other, and I imagine the bottom points trying to come together towards my spine. You can repeat this up to 30 times. You can hold static and just hold for 1 minute, or you can pulse. Any one of those is appropriate, just as long as the elbows don't leave the ribs, okay, as you're pulling the band. Next, we go into shoulder extension. Most bands, when you buy them, come with a door jamb stopper. So you place your band through the loop, this big loop, and then that little wedge part goes up into the door. I like to start high for the first one, which is shoulder extension. So the key points here are, again, the shoulders want to rise up, so you really have to work lowering the shoulder blades and lifting the front of the chest. So I grab onto my handles. I don't even have to have a big hard grip. You can have open hands. Stand tall, spread your collarbones, and pull just to your hips. Don't try to go behind your hips. That compromises your bicep tendon. So you want to come just to your hips. And you can do up to 30 reps. I like high reps for shoulders on any of these exercises, because that way you really fatigue the muscles that we want to work. The tendency as we go is to round out, so make sure you have good posture as you're going. The next activity is tricep extension. So you bring your elbows into your ribs, just like that scapular pinching, and you push down. The elbows stay tight, but as I bring the band down, I want to tighten up the back of this arm. Again, the tendency for this activity is the shoulders roll forward, so we really want to lift and spread our chest and keep our posture tall and strong. Again, up to 30 reps or to fatigue. Once you get up to 30 reps, then it becomes a matter of time. How much time do you have? And sometimes you don't have all that much time, so you might want to increase your resistance. The next one is horizontal abduction, fancy terminology. All I'm doing is making a letter T. So I start with my thumbs up facing my anchor, and I don't have any tension on this band whatsoever in the beginning as I bring my hands together. As I move them apart, be sure shoulder blades are down again, don't let them creep up, and I pull as wide as I can comfortably. It's okay if you don't even get to your side of your ribs. That's your goal, is to get to the side of the ribs. And again, we want to accentuate that pinching. We're bringing the scapular blades together towards each other behind your back. If this is painful for you, you can also put your hands in your loop so you don't have to grip, and use an open palm. The next one is the letter Y. So now we do the same thing. We start the same way, but you're going to bring your arms up and up to your ears. And again, it's okay if you don't get there. But you see, I can feel it. My shoulders are starting to hike, so I have to work really hard to move my shoulder blades down my back. The next will be external rotation. I use a small hand towel, and I'm going to place that hand towel between my elbow and my rib, okay? So I'm holding a newspaper underneath. Hey, that's old school, isn't it? Sorry about that. You young people out there, they don't do that anymore. So I bring my hand directly in front of me, and my elbow is bent at 90 degrees. Again, Here's that shoulder girdle needs to move down. Move that shoulder blade back and down. And against the wall, I can step away. Now I'm creating resistance with the opposite band so it doesn't slip through. And I step away. The arm stays in place, nothing else moves. That's one way to do it. The next one would be just to pulse. And it's not a very big motion, so you really want to just go as far as you can comfortably. And again, the numbers can be up to 30. Standing scaption. This can be done with no weights at all, half a water bottle filled, small objects. You don't need a lot of heavy weights. I would say 2 to 5 pounds. Smaller people should probably use less. Bigger, taller, stronger people can use a little bit more. The point of this is to get the shoulder stabilizers to really work and focus on keeping the shoulder blades down and in. So you begin with your arms outstretched in front of you, and you can't have bent elbows. You really have to tighten up that tricep to have the elbows nice and straight. And again, you're going to have them like the shape of a letter V. You don't want to be too narrow and you don't want to be too wide. You want to be somewhere in the middle. Standing tall, lengthen your neck, and then you're going to drop one arm down while you hold the other one up. Repeat 10 cycles, 10 repetitions, and then switch to the other side and do 10 repetitions. You can release after the first round and then repeat that activity, or go directly into the next set. So it would be 10, 10, 10, 10. You can do that up to 3 times. As you go through the motions, really focus on pulling the shoulder blades down and in and up so that the bottom parts of the blade are going down towards the spine and then slightly forward. Again, that lifts that rib cage to give your chest more space and give the shoulder girdle and the shoulder joint more room to move. And the last thing I wanted to demonstrate standing is a serratus push-up. This is probably the toughest concept for most people to understand. Key points for this are your elbows do not bend, and you're only moving your shoulder blade forward and back. So as the shoulder moves, it wraps around the ribs, and then as it comes back, we want to try and bring those points together behind us. So first we start open without any resistance, nothing. Move our shoulder blades down or back, tighten up that tricep so your elbows are straight, and push forward. So now I can round out my back, I can drop my chin, and I get a nice round upper back. Now I don't really want that, but it helps us to get a good understanding. And then as I come back, now I'm going to pull my shoulders straight back and try to bring the back of my shoulder blades towards each other, again, towards the spine. So we reach forward and back and forward and back. Now this one is mainly just to get the concept, to get the movement. So I'm not going to give you numbers. I just want you to practice this. You can then take that activity to the wall. So kind of like a push-up, but again, the elbows do not bend. Elbows have to stay straight. And you can also do that with 10 fingers if your wrists don't like that. And that's just a great concept to get the muscles that stabilize that shoulder blade to help kick in and stay engaged and help protect you so that you have a better range of motion. So you can do this with no weight. Half a filled water bottle is about a half a pound. 1 pound, 2, 4. I wouldn't go more than 5 or 8. That's plenty for this activity. And as you bring the dumbbell up, again, notice that the arm is at 90, just like the other one, and that you've got to keep that elbow nice and tight. Again, up to 30 reps, and if it becomes tiresome at 30, grab a heavier weight and you can get yourself a little more resistance. The key points here are, again, feeling what that shoulder blade is doing as you're raising that weight. You can hold it static at a level place and just hold and that's a good one too. Or you can also do small pulses. So full range of motion, static, or pulsing. Any one of those will be very helpful. That's a great therapeutic activity for the rotator cuff to help strengthen that rotator cuff. It's very specific. The next one we're going to work on is thoracic rotation. And now I'm going to show you one of my favorite ones, and this one's very difficult to do. It's not hard to do, it's just hard to do. So you start on your hands and knees, and if you have a hard floor, you can put a little padding under your knees and have your hands underneath your shoulders. You don't want to be sitting back and you don't want to be too far forward. Again, we can practice that serratus. There we go. Love that activity. Now what you're going to do is you're going to shift your weight into one hand and you extend the other arm out to the side, again, locking that elbow, pulling that tricep tight. Thumb is pointed towards the ceiling. Raise the arm to shoulder height. Now this doesn't look like very much, but as I make adjustments, it gets harder and harder and harder to do. So the first thing I want to do is level my shoulders so I can look down and look at my chest and go, oh, my chest is kind of crooked, so I got to make it flat and straight. I extend and reach through my fingertips. You can do this, as you see, I'm doing this with no weight. You can do this with a half a pound, a full pound. I wouldn't do more than 5 pounds with this activity. The goal is 2 minutes. Can you hold this static pose for 2 minutes? And as you begin to fatigue, you'll notice the different parts of the shoulder begin to take over. So what this does is this trains the shoulder muscles that are supposed to be doing that job instead of the ones that tend to want to take over, which is typically our upper traps. My hand is on my chest, and this is actually my sore side, so you'll see some discrepancies. As I go back, I keep my eyes looking towards the wall, so my eyes are facing this way, and I drop my shoulder blade back, drop my shoulder blade back. Again, I have to adjust, drop my shoulder blade, drop my shoulder blade. The knees have a tendency to want to come apart, so you want to try and keep your knees together as much as you can. Sometimes you just have to let things happen the way they happen. If the knees pop up a little bit, that's okay. I can take a couple breaths, usually into the restricted part. And then as I exhale, now I can extend my arm. And as I extend my arm, I want to reach my arm away from me. So I stretch my fingertips away like I'm really reaching for something far, far back. And again, my goal is to get my shoulder blade towards the ground, not my arm. You see it as my head pops up here, so we don't want that to happen. So I keep my hand in line with my shoulder and make the back do the rotation, not the arm. That's very, very, very important. To come out of this, you want to shorten the lever. So you bend the elbow, bring your hand back to your chest, and then rotate back to a start position. I hope that this video has been helpful for you. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask me, please feel free to email me at exerciseruckus@gmail.com. Hopefully I can answer any questions that you might have. And I look forward to showing you more videos on how to better take care of yourself.